today, so you'll receive a copy of that automatically. We're also streaming live on YouTube, and I'm just getting that going to make sure we're all set there. All right, good to go. If someone in the Q&A could do me a favor and just let me know that you can hear me and you can see my screen, just give me a yes. That would be fantastic. I'd really appreciate it. And then we will go ahead and get started. Put in the Q&A just a yes if you all can hear me and see my screen. That would be great. It's up at the top there on the right. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Susan. Really appreciate it. So I'm Hallie Crawford, certified career coach, speaker, and author, and I'm thrilled to be here with you all today. Thank you so much for your time, especially as I know all of us are getting into holiday mode, which I am too, which is why I'm not doing camera today. A lot going on in the background for me. So I'm thrilled to be here with you all today to talk about how to identify your career values, because this is one of the most important things that we work with our clients on to help them not just find greater fulfillment in their career, but figure out how to remain challenged and marketable and, just in the right position over time as part of their career planning as well. So I'm excited to talk with you about this topic because honestly, this is one of my, top 3 favorite topics to discuss with our clients. So as a quick reminder, you will get a copy of the recording. You'll get that, within the next 24 hours. So just know you'll get that automatically. And just as a really quick intro to me, most of you probably already know about us, but I've been coaching and training since 2002. So we've been in a business a long time. We've got a great team of resume writers and coaches who love helping people find the right job for them and plan their career path strategically, but also like mindfully and proactively, not just being reactive about their career, but proactive about it. And in addition to having a coach certification, I've got an undergrad degree from Vanderbilt University and the University of Illinois. So let's dive right in. As we all know, and we're probably sick of talking about it to a certain extent, COVID has changed the way we work, and it's never going to go back to the way it was. We had the Great Resignation, we had the Great Vacation. There's all these greats that have happened, in the past several years. And now people even more so are moving into this concept or idea of like a gig economy where they might be changing jobs a lot more than they would have in the past. Some people are looking for a side gig. Some people just don't want to do the traditional 9 to 5 anymore. There's just lots of different ways that we can work. And so we want to encourage people to think about their career path as like a puzzle to put together. And, what would be your ideal, and get something as close to that as you possibly can. But it's just not as cookie cutter as it used to be anymore. And because of all of the changes that have occurred, we need to find ways to become either re-engaged at work, whether that means staying where you are now or moving on to something different, and engaged at work and fulfilled for the long term. Because if you identify and align your career path with your career values, then you're going to feel fulfilled pretty much professionally for the rest of your career. Now, you might need to make some adjustments and changes over time. That's normal. That's part of the deal. But we always like to start with values with our clients as part of like one of the very first steps and things we talk with them about, because it's just so juicy, meaningful, and helpful for them to figure out, what the right path is for them and plan their career proactively, like we were saying. So what we're going to talk about today is 3 basic steps to clarify your values. And there'll be a couple of other things that we'll be talking about along the way too. But we want to discuss defining fulfillment first in terms of, clarifying your career goals and whether you need to make a transition or not, and why we feel that's so important and useful to do upfront. We'll talk about our ideal career model that we have used with our clients for 23 years and talk about being creative with your options. So please know that the stuff we're talking about today is going to be relevant to you, whether you're thinking about making a career change or not. Our values can help us clarify how we want to spend our time during our workday in an ideal world, what tasks we'd like to perform, and even in some cases, performing or organizing our day in a different way that would be more fulfilling to us. So it doesn't have to be about career transition. And although I know the past several years have just been upside down for so many of us, the good news, I think, is that not only can you find direction and fulfillment in your career, even in your current job, more so, but I think because of all of the changes, and now we have so many more options with flex work and remote work, that even more so we can find that sense of direction and deeper reward and fulfillment. Employers are listening to this kind of stuff even more these days. Now I know we're, heading into a possible recession. There's layoffs occurring and all of that, and we totally understand that some people may feel like, I need to sit tight for a little while, and that's totally fine. But if that's the case for you, you want to think about, what can I do where I currently am? Or if you are ready to make a change, how can I align that next step with my values and get into the right spot? So that's the good news. You can find more fulfillment, and people are changing jobs more than ever. What we want to say to frame this out is we want you to have the right perspective about your career path, though. And when we're talking about, your dream job and having your ideal job, it's not always going to be peaches and cream. And we want people to understand and know that your job is never going to be perfect every single second of the day. I mean, we love what we do as coaches. I do as well. But there are times when, I'd rather just stay in bed and be independently wealthy or go on a vacation or, whatever it is. So when you're thinking about your values, we want you to work on trying to align your career path as much as you possibly can with your values, but know that it's not going to be perfection all the time necessarily. And we want you to get as close to it as you possibly can. Our goal for our clients is to have a job or a career path that the good stuff about what they're doing so far outweighs the bad things, the things they don't like quite as much, that they barely notice those things they don't like as much. That's the goal and kind of the right perspective. Okay. So we always just want our clients to know that we're not sitting here being Pollyanna and saying, oh, it can be perfect all the time. And you wave a magic wand and it's going to be perfect. There will be things that you're going to have to compromise on in your career. That's just part of the deal. But also, when you choose where you compromise and when you get closer to your values than you were beforehand, you're going to feel so much better that you will barely notice the things that you didn't like or don't like quite as much. It's a really cool way of thinking about it. Okay. So let's take a look at this next slide. One of the things we want you to think about is fulfillment for you as a person and as a professional, but start with you as a person first. What's meaningful to you? What's important to you? And I do think it's still helpful to think about what fulfillment means to you now versus before COVID, just because I think, at least for a lot of our clients, what's meaningful and fulfilling to them has changed over time. Some of our clients are saying, I want to have a more hands-on direct relationship with my customers, or I want to feel like I'm making a greater difference, those types of things. So it can be helpful to just write a couple of things down about, okay, what was meaningful to me before then and what has changed, what's meaningful now, just because it's good to kind of have that litmus test, if you will, so that you're realizing, oh, some things have shifted. So I need to pay attention to what's going on. And on this next slide, we talk about fulfillment with our clients up front in our career model for a lot of different reasons. And I'll explain our model in a couple of slides here a little bit more. But we start with down here, this blue box in fulfillment. This is the cornerstone of what we call our ideal career model that basically shows you the 8 things you need to consider in order to be in the right career path, to know if you're in the right job, in the right career for the long run. And if you use this as a checklist and say, ooh, I'm not because some things are missing, how do I determine what the right career path is? This is what the model is for. And we start with fulfillment first because it tends to be the most difficult thing for people to define because it's a little bit more esoteric and less tangible. But we also do that too because fulfillment impacts all aspects of our career fit and satisfaction. For example, if you're not leveraging the strengths you want to be leveraging in your current career path, you're not going to be fulfilled. If you're not being compensated in a way that feels fair and adequate for you or what you deserve, it's not going to be fulfilling to you. Bad work environment for you, not a fit personality wise, fulfillment is going to be impacted. And then finally, our careers impact us personally, as well. We've had so many clients that will contact us and say, my husband, my wife, my partner, my spouse, whatever, is tired of hearing me, complain about my job. And we understand even more so now with hybrid, remote work, all of that, how much this life balance idea and being fulfilled in our careers is critically important because it does impact us in our personal lives a lot. We spend a lot of time at work. Okay. So fulfillment, even though it may seem like, well, Hallie, I got to pay my bills. Like, why wouldn't I look at compensation like first or one of the most important things? And we are not saying that compensation is unimportant. It's critically important. But it's the idea of if you shoot for the moon, at least you'll hit the stars, right? If you at least do the stuff that we're talking about today, think through our model, identify your values, and take a little bit of time to brainstorm what is right for you, you're going to find out that there are so many different options out there that you didn't even know existed, for example, or you're going to have new ways of thinking about your current job that will make it better for you. And then you can get practical and narrow down what you need to do next based on that. But you'll have a lot more ideas and you'll have thought much more outside the box and get closer to something you'd actually enjoy. That's the whole point of it. Okay. Now, when we think about fulfillment, taking a look at this next slide, one of the ways to define fulfillment, and by the way, this is basically how you define your values as well, because the way that we work with values with our clients is values are your guideposts to fulfillment. When you define your values, you're going to know what's fulfilling to you. End of story. So I'm going to use those terms interchangeably today. So when you're thinking about your values and fulfillment, it's actually worthwhile to spend about 5 to 10 minutes, doesn't have to take that long, thinking about your childhood dreams, your interests that you have now as an adult, your passions, your hobbies. What are you drawn to when you read books or watch TV? And what are the themes underneath those things? And I'll tell you why there's a mermaid on this slide. So when I thought about my childhood dream of being a mermaid at Weeki Wachee, I grew up in Florida. We went to Weeki Wachee all the time. And I just remember going there and thinking, oh, that looks like the coolest thing to do. Swimming around underwater, like there was beauty, there was creativity. They were also educating people. Even though being a mermaid was not my most practical career path as an adult, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do long term and how to infuse more fulfillment into my coaching business, as well as determine my direction, there are actually values that came up for me from that childhood dream. The value of creativity, the value of kind of educating people while you're entertaining them. I love creating slides for these webinars and I love presenting webinars like this. And that's kind of what those ladies were doing. There's also a value for me that I have of risk. And to me, that job at the time as a kid kind of seemed risky. And that's part of what was appealing to me. So even if your current hobbies and interests are not valid or viable career options for you, think about them anyway and ask yourself the question, why do I enjoy this? What is it about this hobby, this, type of book I always read that is appealing to me? And you'll start to see themes between these different things and identify what some of your possible values are. And then you start to think about and say, okay, how can I infuse some of those values into my job or into my career? Okay. So it's not about going crazy and wild, although some people do and they are successful. Like if you love photography, if just being a photographer right now isn't a viable career path, ask yourself, what is it about that? Is it the beauty? Is it, creating experiences, some things that you can incorporate maybe into what you're doing now or a new path? Those are possible values. Now, other ways to define fulfillment and also some of our values would be things that are listed on this slide. Number one, you could journal for about 5 or 10 minutes about how you define success. What does success mean to you now at this point in your life and in your career? pre and post COVID, and based on whatever has happened for you and, career wise in the past several years. Write about that and just spit it out. Like, don't overthink it. It's really interesting to see what comes out on paper sometimes when you don't think too much and you're just, thinking about things gut instinct wise. So, how do you define success is another great question to kind of muse on. Another thing that we'll have clients do to define their values is to think about their ideal day at work and what qualities would it have. And in some cases, you could ask yourself, can I get that where I am now? And if not, maybe you need to make a move. If you can, okay, great, stay put. Some of our clients will have them do a vision board. If you're a more visual person, that can be a great way to think about your ideal day at work and how you want to spend it. And remember, we talked earlier about we're getting as close as we possibly can to the ideal. When you think about your ideal day at work, you'll also probably come up with some things that you're like, yeah, it would be great to have this item on the list, but that's one area where I could compromise, right? Like for me, as a coach, I love marketing, I love writing, and I had a marketing and writing communications job a long time ago, and I hated it because it was not aligned with my values. That's something that's fun for me to do as like icing on the cake in my current job. But you know what? If I didn't have it, that would be okay too. I could compromise on those things. And then the last thing that you can do to think about your top 3 to 5 career values. We like for people to have around 5 career values that they've determined. 10 tends to be a lot. Less than that, it doesn't give you quite as much juice. Think about your values today versus pre-COVID, again, like we said. And one of the exercises that we do with our clients up front, which we really like a lot, is to think about and write about a personal peak experience in your life. It could be a moment in time. It could be a period of time. It doesn't matter. It could be a trip overseas. One of our clients told us his peak experience was when he was the editor of his high school yearbook. And the key thing that we want you to think about with that peak experience is less about what was I doing and who was I with or whatever, and to ask yourself more the question of, why was this cool for me? What was so neat about this situation, experience, moment in time or period of time that was cool for me as a person? Write about that for a couple of minutes. Even better, share it with a friend, family member, a coach like us. We can help you narrow down what your values are, name them, and help you define them. But we like people, by the way, to do a personal experience versus a career, because then you'll get closer to what you really want as a person versus picking values from like a website and things that you feel like you should say, like, oh, well, I should say accomplishment and I should say, success or whatever. This flips it on its head a little bit more. Some of the other ways to identify your values is to think about things that get under your skin and drive you crazy, because those are clues to things that where your values may be being smushed or not honored. Okay. So that's another way to think about it too. Here's what we are hearing from our clients, by the way, when we're working with them on their values these days. And just by the way, we don't do polls on these because we've just got the 30 minutes since they're free. A lot of things have changed since COVID, like we've said, and we've had clients telling us, I've really reevaluated things. There are different strengths that I want to leverage now at this point in my career. So strengths is one of the things you could think about as it relates to what would be fulfilling to you and your values too. And other people are saying, and I said this a little bit earlier, about what's meaningful to them has changed. They want to have a greater impact on other people. They want to have a bigger impact on their organization. Other people are saying the opposite thing. They're like, I'm too stressed out, and I would actually like to make a lateral move at a place that there's less pressure. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's about what works for you and what's important to you. And these are just some examples here of some of the values that people come up with, but also, some of the career paths that we talk with people about based on what their values are. Okay. And we'll show you some websites a little bit closer to the end. Reminder, you can check out these websites because we'll share the recording with you. So you'll be able to see those too, about how you can brainstorm some ideas and, maybe identify some of your values as well. We also offer a free strategy session for anyone who is wanting to learn more about our coaching services. And we'd be happy to, I always conduct these. I'd be happy to talk with you. Two things, we've got a discount that is running our year-end sale that we always do. It's $50 off, and that is actually literally the coupon code right there that you can use on our website. If you want to talk with us more about coaching, if you just want like a quick values session, we're happy to do that. We're really flexible with our packages and our model and everything else. So feel free to set this up with us if you feel like you need it, and refer a friend if you know someone who is not happy about their work, has recently gotten laid off, etc. We can totally help them. And for us, it's not overwhelming because we do this all day, every day, and we're good at supporting people. The second thing we want you to think about, because we had said, 3 ways to identify your values, is to actually go past or beyond the fulfillment piece of the model and look in these other boxes, because our values can actually be embedded in each of the pieces in some way, shape, or form. And I'll just shift to this slide here really quickly. So we talked about fulfillment already, peak experience, everything else. You could also ask yourself and think about, what tasks do I tend to like to perform at work? Those could be clues to values. What strengths do you like to leverage the most? When do you feel like you're rocking and rolling and really in the flow? And those strengths can be clues to some of your values as well. If you think about your past experience and even some of your college courses, I did this. I was always drawn to interpersonal communication classes and psychology courses at Vanderbilt. And that helped validate and helped me brainstorm, well, career coaching or like being a psychologist or something was one of the paths I had thought about. You also want to think about your personality type and how your values could be either present there or vice versa. Like, are you more introverted or extroverted? And so, for example, if you're more introverted, like I actually am, surprisingly to people, do you need a lot of downtime at work and you value like deep thinking, for example, or, one-on-one relationships with people and getting to know people one-on-one? Those are some things that you can think about as it relates to your career path and what would be fulfilling to you. And then finally, the work environment is really important. We've had clients come to us, and as they work with us, they realize, you know what, I'm actually in the right job, in the right type of role. I'm just in the wrong company. And they might even be in the right industry, let's say, but in the wrong company. Our work environment really is critical to our fulfillment and satisfaction. And especially, we need to think about, do our values align with the place that we're working, the mission, the culture, et cetera, and vice versa? Because this can be a source of dissatisfaction for a lot of different reasons. Like, the work environment may not be good or not a good fit for our personality type, but it also might be kind of smushing our values in some way, shape, or form. And we've had clients tell us that. We had one woman come to us, and she's just a really good, direct, simple example. She worked at one of the big 4 consulting firms. And when she first came to us, she said, I'm so unhappy. I'm thinking I should go be a chef. And when we worked with her and worked through it and helped her be objective and practical about it too, she realized she was actually really close to her dream job. It was the work environment that was not a fit for her. And more specifically, a really difficult boss that was creating that toxic work environment, but it was making her doubt everything, which is what happens to us. So this is why the model can help you be more objective about what's going on, what needs to change, and not throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, okay, hold on, let me take emotions out of this for just a minute and say what's working and what's not working and what needs to change. And that can tell you whether you need to make a job shift, an industry shift, or nothing at all, because you can make some of these changes where you are. And then finally, compensation is critically important. Our values can be embedded in that piece too, not just because we have to pay our bills, but it could be about, do I get continuing education as part of one of, my compensation or benefits package? That's really important to me. Do I get, enough vacation time for the work-life balance, et cetera, et cetera. So we want you to think about all of these as part of everything we're talking about and as part of thinking about your values too, because there can be clues there. Tip number 3 in identifying your values and thinking about things is it's a good idea to like use the career model and some of those elements there, like your strengths and your values, to help you like get creative with, okay, now that I know my values, what am I going to do about this? Should I go ahead and research some alternative jobs just to see what else is out there? There's new jobs, there's the gig economy, so much has changed. And there are so many jobs out there that like every day our coaches feel like they learn about a new career path that they've never heard of before. I mean, it's fascinating and it's part of what's fun for us. And if you feel like I want to look around a little bit, you can look around and just look at job boards and see what else is out there and what might be appealing to you and get some practice interviews just to see how that feels. That's reasonable too. So remember that it's not black or white here with a possible job search or not. You can kind of poke around a little bit and see what else is out there, and that will give you information. One of the other things we like for people to think about with their current position and moving towards greater fulfillment where they are or in a career change, if that's needed, is to separate what works for you, what you like about your current job, and what you don't like about your current job. And identify the themes there that you're seeing in that list. Do you see kind of the same thing over and over of, oh, this is a lot of work environment issues, or, oh, this is really about the work environment, but also some of my strengths. Again, this helps you fill out the model and help you figure out, okay, is this a short-term dissatisfaction or is it something that's long-term? And if you do need to make a change, if a course correction would be enough, like the woman we talked about earlier, she went to be an internal consultant at a company that had a great, better work environment because she also didn't want to travel as much, but she didn't need to go be a chef. She could cook at home and that was fine. So the model helps you a lot with that. And this likes and dislikes list can help you a lot too. You can get ideas about alternative career paths if you decide you want to poke around a little bit by reviewing job boards, career sites, reviewing other people's LinkedIn profiles, again, just doing a little bit of research and seeing what else is out there in case there is something that might be a little bit better. And it's a really good idea to brainstorm ideas with friends who know you well, family members, a mentor, career coaches like us. This is what we do all the time. And that will help you kind of cast your net a little bit wider. Even if you decide, we've had clients go on interviews and decide, you know what, I actually like where I am more than I realized. The other things that are out there are not as exciting to me. And she decided to stay where she was. So this looking around a little bit can actually give you a lot of really good information. And as you're brainstorming, looking at and identifying your values, we encourage you to stay organized with like an Excel spreadsheet to see what other jobs might be out there and if they look appealing to you or not. Put your values in one of the tabs in that Excel spreadsheet so you can be clear about what they are and the action steps that you need to take to start moving in that direction of honoring them a little bit more. And there's lots of different websites. The job boards, these are job boards listed here in the middle, and then these are industry specific job boards. But there's lots of cool brainstorming websites now that are out there for different career ideas. And those are listed right here at the top. Those are some of the ones that we give to our clients to help them plug in different keywords and ideas and strengths and experience and just see what else is out there. It's 5 minutes of your time, give or take, and it's worth it so that you can be sure that you are on the right track versus heading in the wrong direction and making sure that you're honoring your values more. So we're at our time for today. I want you all to please think about one action step that you will take in the next week and write it down for us. I know we've all been to webinars before and then the phone rings and we forget what we said we would do, et cetera. It's happened to me before too. And some of the things we would recommend are using a couple of our values exercises to define and clarify your values, like we said, reviewing our ideal career model and going through that, using that as a checklist for yourself, kind of a litmus test about what you need to do next. And we would love to talk with you, friends or family. We've got gift certificates that we sell through or our organization as well. And when you refer someone to us, we do give you a gift card too. So feel free to contact us about our services. We'd be happy to give you some additional advice from today and talk about anything else you need. You would just email us at admin@createyourcareerpath.com. Please stay healthy and well this holiday season. There's a lot going on with everybody, with the economy and everything else. So please take some good downtime as much as you can. And we hope this was helpful for you. Thanks, Wendy, for the kudos that we've helped you in the past. We love hearing that and hearing from our clients. Have a great day and a peaceful holiday season, everyone. Bye-bye.